But the Spun is reporting that Dan Gilbert is in serious discussions about buying the Tigers, and we want to know how you feel about it. Do you want Dan Gilbert to own the Detroit Tigers? Seems like a Detroiter through and through who's really vested in the success and failure of a lot of business ventures in our area. And I agree with the statements that I don't think he'd be scared to spend. I think he'd absolutely spend, but I don't think the Illiches will either. And I mean, can I be okay with no matter what happens here? Is that allowed? That I'm okay if they don't sell them, and I'm okay if they do?
Sure.
Because if they don't sell them, then that's, raise your hand if you actually think the Tigers are doing this the correct way. I think they're doing it the correct way. And not spending when you're ready to add to a roster you've built, not spending is not even in the cards. Like, there's no way the Illiches will continue to own the team if they weren't going to invest in it.
Right. Did they lose a lot of money this year? I'm sure they did. When you had, I think it was 1.8 million fans coming to Comerica Park.
But
that's a big loss there. But it's understandable why, because you're in the midst of a rebuild.
So, how do you feel about the possibility of Dan Gilbert? Would you rather see him now? Would you rather see him owning the Tigers and the Illich family? I am more certain that Gilbert would spend. I am also a little bit leery that he might spend earlier than is warranted. And try and win right away when we're kind of the slow and steady pace. I feel like a sustainable for a Detroit market pace is what we're on here.
Well, these things take time to finalize if they are in discussions. And, I mean, if he gets, let's say that they are in serious talks and they come to an agreement, and the next 2 months it's announced that he is officially owner of the team, I kind of share that concern.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got him. All right, here we go. You get a $25 million contract, and you get a $25 million contract.
And he's going to come in hot.
I think he's going to come in hot if that's the case. If this thing just gets slow played a little bit to the start of the season, obviously you pass up free agency, and that can take place the following offseason, which is when I expect it to happen anyway.
All of a sudden, Daz Cameron being dealt for Ryan Howard. I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like a promising young player for an aging vet and try and win now. And I don't want that. And I think Gilbert's more likely to do that than the Illich family.
I don't know if he is or isn't. Okay. I mean, did they make some moves to try to appease LeBron James? Absolutely. But did the Tigers have? I mean, Miguel Cabrera is not LeBron James. Right?
Right.
I mean, Miguel Cabrera is such a giant question mark with the Tigers moving forward. What is he going to be? We have no idea what he's going to be. He's going to be able to come back from this injury and bounce back and be a 30 home run, 100 RBI, 315, 320 average guy? No idea. My guess is probably not anymore. This injury this year really soured me on the future of what he can do. And I know that you've already been on that bandwagon for a while.
Yep.
So I don't think he's going to treat it that way if he takes over the team. I mean, it's all speculation. We don't know, but I would imagine that there would be for him a sense of urgency to want to win earlier because you want to be. People get impatient like that, but I don't think it comes at the cost of selling off the future of the team. I think it comes through free agency, not through trade.
I also don't want to imply that Dan Gilbert, who's millionaire 20, 40, 30 times, whatever times over. Yeah, this guy is not an idiot, but I do think he might be more likely to come in hot, whereas the Illiches seem to be committed to the slow and steady. Jeff at work says, guys, if the Illich family is willing to sell the Tigers, then I'm not comfortable with the current direction of the team. I don't know anything about Gilbert, but if he truly wants to be owner of the Tigers, it sounds like he has that over the current ownership. From Mike in Plymouth, do you think Gilbert would sell off his casinos without already having something in the works? Casinos are licensed to print money. Doesn't seem like you'd give that up just for the possibility of buying a team.
Well, keep this in mind, too. When you own casinos and if sports betting becomes legal in other states as well, and including the states where he had, I guess, that controlling interest, that would prevent you probably from owning a franchise. So he can see also that down the road, owning a casino, the way to make that a cash cow is to have the sports gambling part, right? so that you have the sports book in your casino. You can't do that if you're an owner. So he's seeing it kind of both ways.
L writes in, the Ilitches selling the Tigers? I think we have a better chance of seeing Michigan get all the roads fixed, new rest stops, and lowered insurance rate before this happens. Terry and Clausen, Gilbert is one of the worst owners in the history of the NBA. There's a reason why LeBron left again. If you're selling casinos to buy a baseball team, what's that say about owning a sports team? See, what I've heard is outside of the NFL, owning a sports team is a terrible investment.
Well, I think the NBA is probably a good investment right now.
Might be. And I know, these books always get fudged, but that was kind of the rule, is that these are emotional buys and not logical ones.
Well, I think things are starting to change now. I mean, you look at the number I've seen thrown around for the broadcast rights deal for the Tigers would be $100 million per year. Well, do the math on that. Mm-hmm. And then talk about revenue sharing from the league with everything else, and then look at, 2 million people coming in spending, let's say, average 50, whatever it is, $50 a person. That's another $100 million. I mean, you start to add it up, and it becomes a profitable endeavor.
We're talking about this because The Spun is reporting that it's serious discussions between Dan Gilbert and buying the Tigers. From an unnamed texter, I think Gilbert would crush it in baseball because, unlike basketball, great players will go where they are wanted and paid well, not just the cool cities to further their personal brands. Next one, I think he'll spend money. He's made no secret. He wants to help the city and the teams. Dennis in Plymouth, Dan Gilbert, please buy the Tigers. That would be awesome. And from Chris, could they play soccer at Comerica? Yes, they could.
You think that's not part of it at all?
I wondered about that. I think if Dan Gilbert gets the Tigers, the whole soccer thing is dead. Like, isn't the soccer thing, wasn't the USFL Trump's way into the NFL? Isn't soccer his way into owning a Detroit team? But if he gets the Tigers, forget it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I feel about it. He's not really that interested in a soccer team. He's interested in being a sports owner in Detroit.
I think the whole soccer thing in Detroit is on hold for a while. I think it's particularly, obviously, if he gets the Tigers, I think it's on hold for a while and see what happens 5-8 years down the road. And then you'll have a better idea if soccer is really taking off in this country or not. I mean, I think we were kind of hot about it within the last couple of years to get the franchise because we thought, okay, doing it smart, 20,000 seat stadium, whatever, it's going to be perfect right downtown. Well, all that talk is done because they weren't able to work things out. So I think, yeah, he's committed so much money to the city before any of this talk of buying the Tigers has come up. He's already, putting money elsewhere.
It's interesting to discuss. We'll get to your phone calls. Also, state of Michigan, we're representing with beer, yo. We'll get to that coming up. 97.1 The Ticket.